Let's look for historical buildings and monuments in District 3 today. We started out in this church. The Church of St. Nicholas was established as a parish in 1184. This Gothic-style church still retains its excellent Renaissance portal. The construction of the present church took place between the 14th and 17th centuries. Nevertheless, the first 13th century bays have been reused. Let's get inside. There is a remarkable altarpiece created by Simon Vouet and Jacques Sarrazin in the early 17th century. There are many churches classified as historical monuments in the city of Paris, so it might be a good idea to visit them. You'll discover the oldest industrial and technological collection in the world in this museum. What a beautiful day today. It's a perfect day for a walk. The size of this graffiti is 3.5 meters by 6 meters. This graffiti entitled, Contemplations of the Red Jester, painted by the French muralist Pascal Boyart in the Rue de Montmorency in 2020. The construction of this four-story house took place from 1397 to 1407. It was the property of the rich Parisian bourgeois Nicolas Flamel, who was a public writer, copyist and bookseller in the 14th century. In 1766, Claude Nicolas Ledoux built the present hotel in the Louis XVI style. The facade on the street was inspired by the antique. Jean-Rond d'Alembert was the creator of the famous Encyclopedia, as well as Diderot. He used to live in this beautiful 17th century mansion. This mural, Upside Downtown, was created by artist Daniel van der Noon and the Street Society Agency in 2019. The Hôtel de Montmort was built around 1623 for the treasured Jean Aubert de Montmort. This Museum of Art and History of Judaism opened in 1998, which located in the 17th century architecture Hôtel de Saint-Ainan, designed by Pierre Lemouet. King Philippe Auguste decided to build fortification before his departure for the Crusade in 1190, to protect the capital during his absence. The third and fourth arrondissements are called the Marais, where used to be a marshy area occupied since the 12th century. It has many private mansions from the 17th and 18th centuries, and each mansion has a beautiful appearance till now. Today, this historic district is one of the most visited in Paris. The St. Elizabeth Church is a beautiful classical building built in the first half of the 17th century. Originally, this church was a chapel for the nuns of the Third Order of St. Francis, which was consecrated in 1648 by Paul de Gondi, future Cardinal of Retz. There are a collection of paintings, miniatures and priestly ornaments from the Middle Ages and the Renaissance in the sacristy. The Hôtel de Guénégaud is a former aristocratic residence built on the plans of François Mansart between 1652 to 1655. In 1967, the Museum of Hunting and Nature was established in here. This neoclassical fontaine was designed by Moreau d'Esprou for the Prince of Soubise and was built in 1760 to replace of the previous one. The Hôtel de Clisson has two beautiful corbelled turrets. The ogival arcade located underneath was the main entrance. The history of entire mansion traced back to the end of the 14th century. It's became part of the Archives Nationales now. The Hôtel de Soubise is a magnificent 18th-century palace. A first residence was built around 1380 for Olivier de Clisson, who was Constable of France. After that, it has changed owners several times, but is now part of the Archives Nationales. The Hôtel de Fontenay, the Hôtel de Breteuil, the Hôtel d'Assy. These three mansions represent a single property dating from 1531 and were split up for easier management. The Hôtel de Jaucourt occupies the site of a large mansion, built in 1382. And this simple portal was designed in 1687. This small Renaissance mansion was built around 1510 to 1520 for Jean Arouet, secretary to the Duke of Orléans and treasurer of France. This street is lined with many boutiques. The Hôtel d'Almaraz was built in 1583 for Jean de Forcy, who was king's counselor. Unfortunately, no original interior decoration has survived. It's a specimen of the architecture of the time of King Henri IV. The Hôtel de Sandreville is a combination of two buildings from different periods. Originally, Claude Mortier, Lord of Soisy, notary and secretary of the king, built a vast mansion around 1586. The Hôtel de Donnen was built in 1575 for Médéric de Donnen, who was general controller of the king's buildings. This mansion was restored after its acquisition by the city of Paris in 1974, and assigned to the Museum of Cognac-J. the architect Liberal Bruant who lived in the Marais area and built a mansion for his use around 1685. Once this place was a museum. But after renovation in 2011-2012, it's being privately owned now. The former Hotel Aubert de Fontenay was built between 1656 and 1659. Pierre Aubert, Lord of Fontenay, commissioned a young unknown architect, Jean Bouillier de Bourges, to build a sumptuous residence. Now this residence became the Picasso Museum, opened its doors in 1985. The main construction of former Hotel de Percy or Hotel de Bercy or Hotel de Précantal took place in the 17th and 18th centuries. The person associated with the history of this building is Marie de Rebudin-Chantal, widely known as Madame Sévigné, who was a French aristocrat. Now it's became a private property. This confectionery shop is famous for Mart waffle, filled with vanilla paste. The Hotel Le Pelletier de Saint-Fargeau was built between 1688 and 1690 on the plans of the architect Pierre Bullet. This square was built on the former garden of the Hotel Le Pelletier de Saint-Fargeau. It presents a selection of archaeological collections and monumental sculptures kept at the Carnavalet Museum. The Carnavalet Museum is dedicated to the history of Paris from the origins of the city to present day. The Hôtel des Lignaires, known as Carnavalet, is one of the oldest private mansions in the Marais district of Paris with the Renaissance architecture. It was built for Jacques des Lignaires in the middle of the 16th century. From 1660, the famous architect François Mansart created a part of the mansion. After that, the city of Paris was purchased this mansion in 1866 to make the historical museum. In this area, you can also enjoy shopping and having a pleasant time with friends in a cafe. Look, I can see the Place des Vosges. The square, later renamed Place des Vosges, consisted of 36 identical pavilions built in the brick and stone style. Place of residence of the aristocracy in the 17th century, the Place Royal was inhabited by the great lords of the kingdom. The Queen's Pavilion is located in the north side of this square. On the other side, there is the King's Pavilion as well. The pavilion have a uniform style and announce the French classicism of the 17th century. The name, Place des Vosges, dates back to 1800, was given in honor of the Vosges province where the first taxes were paid. The reason behind the creation of this square was an ambitious project announced by King Henri IV in 1605 to create the first royal square to adorn the city. We left Place des Vosges and headed for the nearby metro station. It's about time to finish today. Have a great day. See you soon.